Hey, welcome. I am Canute White, Dr. Canute White, and you're listening to Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. And hey, you wouldn't want to miss this episode. Men, you wouldn't want to miss it, and women as well. They would have an interest in it, especially those women who are dating or married and involved in an intimate relationship would like to understand more about this topic, and we have a very interesting and experienced, knowledgeable person to talk to you about this topic. Look, guys, those men who are glued to the internet, the wherever source that you may get your pornographic, it's something that is challenging. It can be addictive. When you talk about addiction, you don't talk about only food addiction, and many people didn't know about food addiction. They know about drug addiction and so on. But there are other things that we can be addicted to, right? And one of those things is pornography and sex. And our guests will be talking to us men about it, and to you women as well, as it may interest you. I am Dr. Canute White. You're listening to Canute Expression, your topic in a podcast, and I'm going to let my guest in is no other than Bob Herndon. Bob,
Dr.
how are you
White,
doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Hey, this is a touchy topic. Nothing is taboo on Canute exploration. However, this is touchy, and men need to understand what's going on as it relates to this topic. However, let me start off by asking, who is Bob?
Well, I am a porn addict. I've been
Mm-hmm.
in addiction for 45 years. That transcended 3 marriages. I have been in recovery now for 2 years, trying to regain the trust of my current wife.
Yeah.
And I just realized by going through my own journey that there's not a lot of people out there that know about this, and certainly not very interested in speaking up about it. As you said, it's kind of a secretive thing. Pretty much you only get involved if you get caught.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, my life coaching business is to help men who are struggling with unwanted sexual behavior.
Okay. All right. Bob, let's touch this question that I love to catch my guests off guard with. About your childhood, anything you'd like to say? Because this episode, this podcast is basically about empowering others. So sometimes our audience want to know where you're coming from as a child.
Well, I had a mom and a dad. They were married for 41 years before my dad passed away. He was a well provider, really probably a middle class child, did well in school, be average type of person.
Yeah.
But I've realized that as I've gotten to this side of life, that there were some things that fell short that I didn't realize at the time that has contributed to why I'm in recovery at this point.
Okay. Nice, Bob. And as you touched that, there must be some inspirational message from your childhood. Perhaps you have not hinted it on it, but inspirational message or messages from your childhood that you'd like others to learn.
Yeah, like I said, I had a good, stable parenthood, but I also had a dad that was working a lot to provide for the family, and so on the weekends, his method of getting away was to play golf. And it got to the point if I wanted to see him on the weekends, I had to learn to play golf, which I have no
Yeah.
regrets for doing that. But the
Right.
idea was that looking back, it was more of a forced situation than a cooperative type of decision. Now, my mom was a stay at home mom, but she had a lot of anxiety issues.
Yeah.
And so, not very good boundaries. Dad was the disciplinarian, she was kind of just trying to herd cats.
Yeah.
And so I did miss out on some opportunities to learn some things from both parents as I was growing up.
Yeah. Oh, cool, Bob. We want you to, as we go into our featured topic, I want you to be able to define this for us. What is sex porn addiction?
It is something just like you'd said in the introduction: food, gambling, alcohol, so forth. They're in the same genre, if you will. Maybe not the specifics of each addiction, but they're very similar. And it basically boils down to, at least from the model that I pursue, is the inner child. What happened to you when you're growing up that caused you to have pain points that are now causing issues later on in life with either pornography, too much sex, prostitutes, those types of avenues, especially if you're married. That, of course, is not the way to go.
Yeah. Before I go into how you get started in this era and so on, I'd just like to find out from you, why do some men what do you think, become addicted to sex, pornography? Why do some men get addicted? What do you think?
Yeah, I really believe it's the inner child. They did not get something as they were growing up, or something happened to them that caused trauma, that they are now trying to find a way to comfort themselves because they weren't comforted as they were growing up.
Yeah. So it's sort of a fixation. All right. What are some of the deficiencies in relationships that may lead to this sort of addiction?
Well, one of the problems with addicts in general is that we're selfish and we're self-centered as a general rule, which means that we're not paying attention to our spouse or those around us, and we are so focused on our addiction when we're going to connect again, those kind of situations. And so we've learned several things growing up. That in my case at home, Dad was a disciplinarian, so he wasn't really looking for my opinion on particular anything. So I learned to stuff my feelings, and that came out in terms of anger. And then, of course, once I found pornography, then that was like the nirvana, and it was so easy to take advantage of, no strings attached. At least that was my thought at the time.
Yeah. But I've heard of men who have their beautiful wives, girlfriend for that matter, at home, and still glued to the computer, glued to pornography. What's the problem?
Well, I think it's a misnomer. A lot of people think it's about sex. It's really not. It's about feelings of, say, inadequacy, or don't measure up, I'm not good enough, all those negative narratives that you can give to yourself. And I think, to answer your question about the beautiful wife, it seems counterintuitive that one would go somewhere else, but there's obviously something missing in that relationship. Okay. And this person is trying to find the whole picture.
Yeah. So it's harder to fill a gap somewhere.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. You have gone through, your experience of porn and sexual addiction. But tell me further, how did you get started in this area of porn addiction, sex addiction, in terms of speaking and so on?
Well, I was exposed to it when I was about 15 or 16 years old. Back then, you didn't have the internet, videotapes, or anything like that. It was pretty much Playboy type magazines. And so I started using that, and then as technology progressed, and it became VHS tapes, and then DVDs. Now it's the internet. So it's even more prevalent now because of you don't have to go to the corner drugstore to buy a magazine. You just get on your phone or whatever you're using, bring it up, and there you go. As much as you want, anytime, and quite often most of it's free.
Mm-hmm. And because you have that sort of experience, and hats off to you. You are overcoming this thing, or you have overcome this thing, and you decide to help other men who are experiencing this sort of thing. But the question is, how did you decide? How can you help really men with sex porn addiction?
Yeah, I went through therapy myself, and as I was going through that, my counselor recommended that I might consider becoming a life coach and being able to help people that way. So that's exactly what I did. I went through a life coach training course. I became certified through the International Coaching Federation, and I now help men basically go through the same process that I went through, because I feel like I'm got that working knowledge, and I'm
Okay.
able to empathize with what they're going through.
Okay, that sounds great. And I'm happy that you are helping men to do that. You're really a move and shaker in this
Hmm.
society. Thanks for that. Uh, what is the inner child recovery process? Explain that.
Yeah, it's basically becoming aware of these situations. The model I use is a book called Going Deeper: How the Sexual Addiction Affects Your Recovery, and it breaks it down into 9 different kids. I'll just throw out a couple of names just to give you a flavor. There's the bored child, someone that really didn't have much going on when they're a kid. And so with that, they found other alternatives. In this case, pornography or some variation of that. Then you have the unaffirmed child, that you didn't get those attaboys, you didn't get the nurturing that you needed growing up. And so when you find this ability to act out and satisfy yourself, you think, wow, the chemicals that are going off in your brain is like, wow, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. So those types of flavors of what we deal with, and so we go through each individual one. Some people resonate with a particular kid, some not. I personally relate to 8 of the 9 kids that are presented in this program. And so my job is to go through and introduce them to each of those kids, talk through the characteristics of each child, and find out what their thoughts are and how that relates to them.
Yeah, I realize, you sort of apply some of this to kids. But do you think that boys, um, s- or early, you had started early, or early do you think that boys would have started or can start this sort of an addiction?
Well, part of the problem is that sometimes they start without their consent. It could be they're molested, abused sexually in some fashion, and so the odds increase that you're going to be potentially a sex addict if you're exposed to it at a younger age than, 15 isn't a great age, obviously, but we're talking anywhere between 5 and 9 years old when they're exposed to it.
Yeah,
Just they're not at all prepared for any of that, and
yeah.
so it really does mess them up.
Yeah, and Bob. As I've said to you, I'm from Jamaica, and many of these countries, third world countries, boys start sexual intercourse early, especially
Yes.
those in the inner city, right?
Hmm.
8, 6, that sort of thing. So it will drive them into this sort of addiction later on. But what I'd love to know more about, Bob, is your addiction. Do you want to talk more about it?
Well, at the introduction, I've been had been a addict, sex addict, pornography specifically, for 45 years. And 2 years ago, my wife caught me on the internet,
Yeah,
and she pretty much said, "You need to rid yourself of this, or our marriage is over."
yeah,
And so for me, that was a kick in the side of the head that I was long overdue. And so I started in recovery groups. I go to a group.
mhm,
I have individual help,
yeah,
and I have my own life coaching business where that's primarily the nature of what I do.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you? I am not. Well, I'm not sure how spiritual you are, right? But do you think this thing about porn addiction, sex addiction, how much is it against biblical teaching? How much does it go against spirituality, so to speak?
Well, the Bible is clear that the idea for a optimum marriage is a man and a woman, and that sex stays within that confine with no one else on the outside. So for those that are struggling, and I will point out that this is not just limited to the non-secular world, this has more statistical issues than you'd probably imagine. And so nobody's really exempt from it. And I think that's where a lot of the struggle, though, comes from, is those that are convicted spiritually, that they know they shouldn't be doing it, but they just can't stop.
Yeah, yeah. Bob, you have a wonderful wife. Based on you have said, hey, you need to get some help, or
Right.
so she cares about you. But
Right.
my thing, how can spouses be because I want to say to you, I want to think that women also have this sort of addiction as well, right? Even though
Yes,
we're
they
talking
do.
about men. So that is why I'm saying, how can spouses help men, slash women, to deal with this porn addiction?
Well, it's really tough for the betrayed spouse. That's what I'll call the
Hmm.
other half that's not part of this. It's really difficult for them to try to fix their spouse. It's just they're not trained for it. They don't understand an addict's brain. The best thing you can do is be supportive and encourage him or her to go get help through someone that is trained in the sexual addiction area.
Hmm.
And I think that oftentimes the betrayed spouse needs to go through some help themselves. There are courses out there and sessions available for the betrayed spouse that they've got a ton of hurt in their heart. And even though the guy can really be making progress, if the wife hasn't healed, then you're really not going to have complete recovery. So it definitely is a two-part aspect of this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But the wife now. Well, there is, I suspect, or there will be, I suspect, a level of jealousy on the side of the other spouse. Well, in this case, the wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, wives may be seeing this. Yeah, you are on the internet. You're virtual. However, you are being unfaithful. What do you think?
Yeah, that comes up a lot. There are some tools that are available to track a computer, a phone, tablet. One of the ones that I use is called Covenant Eyes.
Hmm.
And if I go to a questionable website, my wife gets an email showing at least the basics of where I've been, and it's an accountability tool.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I understand that, and hats off to you. I respect you as a man who because you need the help, right? And you are
Absolutely.
getting the help from your wife, and you facilitate those sort of tools. And I hats off to you. I love that. Bob, this thing about I have done some research on the thing before I come to you, and
Hmm.
I realize that it can also be beneficial. So let me ask you this question first before I go on to another one. How
Hmm.
beneficial is prone addiction? Is it?
Is there a benefit
Yeah, is there a
to
benefit to it?
having a porn addiction?
Yeah.
Not that I can
Putting you on
think
the
of.
spot there.
I
Okay.
certainly wouldn't have liked to had it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Why I'm asking that, because I have read somewhere that it's also beneficial to sex therapy. Mark you, an addiction is more than just doing the thing. Yeah, it's more complex. You know.
It is.
Yeah,
There's what I would call the sobriety level. I'm not
yeah,
acting out. I'm not doing any of those things. But what really needs to happen is a change in heart.
yeah.
Your heart has to change because you can be sober for however many periods of time, but if you're still a terrible husband, you don't treat your wife right, then you've only conquered part of that battle. So what we try to get to is a heart change where they actually
Right.
realize that I need to do better. I need to be more focused on her. I need to do the right thing for our family.
Yeah, yeah, and that is true. But it is said that in therapy, um, this thing about porn, it can give ideas to couples, and it can also become a turn-on element in the bedroom.
Yes, I agree. There are couples that use it for that purpose. I think the distinction really has to be made whether you're addicted to it or if you just partake in it.
Yeah,
I think if you're addicted to it, that's a slippery slope. I wouldn't think that'd be the way to go. But if you don't have any of those sexual issues, then, like I said at the beginning, the marital bed is pretty much open, and that's a decision that you and your wife would have to make.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm in psychology, and as we know, when things become pathological, it affects you socially, occupationally, and otherwise. How do you apply this sort of addiction, and how, in your experience, did it affect your social life? Yeah, we talk a bit about your intimate life, and occupational life.
Yeah, I know of several acquaintances that have lost their job because they were looking at pornography on the work computer. Sad to say that happens. Very devastating, because you've already got a problem, and now you've compounded it because you've lost your job, and of course your spouse has to find out about it. So that's just not good all the way around. Socially, I think addicts typically do not reach out because we're so used to being within ourselves. Mm-hmm. So whether you're an introvert, that's what I am, and it tends to compound that idea that I'm not really that social. But I'm working on it because I'm starting to see a change in my overall health, mental health.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm happy for that. That's cool. And the thing about, there's some sexual disorder, voyagism, exhibitionism, and so on. And tell me, in your experience, perhaps not your experience, but you have talked to persons a lot about this thing. Do you realize that a number of men who are addicted to sex, prone as well, have also had other sexual disorder?
Yeah, you'd mentioned kind of exhibitionist. It's out there, unfortunately. But we can't really criticize one aspect compared to the other. It's all not right. I mean, obviously, there's a degree of depravity involved, but it's usually tied back to something that they didn't get or they're not getting, and they're trying to replace that with some sort of good feeling.
Yeah. What do you offer, though? Well, we talk about the betrayed women. What type of support do you offer? What type of resource do you offer to them? What do you take to these women? Because they need help too.
Yeah, because of my recovery, I don't help women. Okay. Because for me it's too close for comfort. However, I do have referrals to female professionals that can help them with it. I have some books and things that I can refer, because this does come up a lot. The guy comes in to see me and they want to get some help for their wife, and there are some resources out there that I can at least provide if somebody were to contact me.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you said that, though, and I understand, right? You're listening to Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I am Dr. Canute White, sitting in with Bob Herndon. I understand what you have said about not helping women because of the situation, right? But and saying that, I was just thinking, not necessarily about you, but other men who have this sort of situation. Is it that they also withdraw from this whole cluster of women because it might create a problem? It might not help them. They might go back to porn because of that. Because, what do you think?
Yeah, it does. I have to be very careful with what I watch on television, where my eyes go. It just takes, a split second. And if you're not careful and you haven't worked on how to deal with those triggers, then you're right. You could be sober for 4 years and something gets you on a particular day, and boom, you have a slip. So it's not something that you ever get over. Much like an alcoholic, they may not ever drink again, but they're still alcoholics, because if they did, they would relapse. That's the same thing with guys. Or even women.
Yeah. And you have this AA thing for alcohol, and so on. But what do we have out there for this sort of situation? What's out there?
Yeah, there are companion programs in the 12-step realm, sex addiction, SAA,
Okay.
sex,
Okay.
anonymous. So it's very much like the 12-step of Alcoholic Anonymous,
Yeah.
but it's been modified slightly to make it more pertinent to the sexual realm.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, real talk, Bob. Men will tell us that, hey, so what? So what?
Yeah.
I'm addicted, so what? It's a good thing. And it's all about sex.
Yeah, that's a common response. It's not hurting anybody. I'm just doing it myself. Well, I'm here to tell you it does hurt others, because
Yeah.
if you're taking yourself away from your spouse, then you're hurting your spouse. If you're so self-centered or selfish, you're hurting others because you're not giving your all. And then thirdly, biblically, it's not proper to be doing solo sex.
Yeah, 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 and that is challenging, and men need to understand that, and I agree with you. It's all about not hurting your spouse. As I said to you before, I've heard of men addicted, and the women are so beautiful. The women are actually supportive. They're helping around. You don't. They do not lack anything in the house, but they go outside, and
Right.
and that too, Bob, speaks to promiscuity. Why do men go on the outside when they're not lacking anything at home? The bedroom is okay. The kitchen is okay. Everything that a man would want. They are comfortable at
Yes.
home, but they still go out. What's the situation there? Just
Yeah.
tipping that into it.
Yeah, they're missing something in life. The bedroom may be fine, but are they being affirmed? Are they being noticed? All those different things. Again, it ties back to that inner child. That if they didn't get something, or they're not getting something now, maybe the sex is great in the bedroom, but
Yeah.
she, outside of that, she may not be very affirming to you. And there is some novelty to it. The fact that I tell guys that, if you had to put your wife up against a one night stand,
Yeah.
most likely you're going to take the one night stand because it's new, exciting, kind of the
Yeah.
thrill of the chase type of thing. Unfortunately, wives don't have the ability to do all the things that fantasy world allows a man to do. And so they're never going to measure up, at least in that regard. And often when you talk about, beautiful women and things,
Yeah.
I suspect that they were probably in this mode before they got into the relationship. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the wife at all. It's really what's going on within them.
Yeah, yeah. And you have said something, Bob, about it affected your two marriages before this one, right? And
Right.
and so it speaks to the fact that it can destroy our intimate relationship, our marriages, yeah? And therefore
Yes.
that's where we need to stop it. But how do women, wives, right? I'm not sure if you want to talk much about it, but first and second, what went wrong in terms of that in relation to the addiction?
Well, um, as I've mentioned, it really has to do with what happened when they were growing up.
Okay.
Did they miss something? They were not nurtured. Are they enmeshed with their parents, usually of the opposite sex? Sometimes
Yeah.
they're in a triangulation situation where mom and dad aren't really talking,
Okay.
so mom talks to son, and then he
Yeah.
becomes the emotional connection for her.
Yeah,
Those all
yeah.
can be issues.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Hey, it's very psychological as well. Are you a therapist?
Say again?
Are you a therapist? Are you a, you
No.
should. You
No.
should get involved.
Well, I took the road that was going to work best for me. I am a licensed, or not a licensed, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Life coaches are not licensed, but I am certified, and I am certified in the area that I've been trained on. And so I know of what I speak because I've gone through it as a client.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, you're a life coach. So, how can people reach you as it relates to getting your assistance?
Well, I have a website. I have looks like it's scrolling across the screen,
Yes, it is.
and so I've got that. I also have a business phone number that's area code 678
Mm-hmm.
632 4598.
Right. Okay. I want you to repeat that website because there are persons listening to us on their favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify. Repeat that. That give us that website.
The website is www.integritylifecoaching.org.
Okay, got that. Repeat the number again.
Area code 678-632-4598.
And you're on Facebook.
Yes, I am.
So it's really Facebook group. What's the name of the group? It's something scrolling here, but perhaps that's not the right thing. But what's the name of the group?
Um, I've got a couple of them. The one that
Okay.
I emphasize that's the public one is Men of Integrity, Hope, Healing, and Freedom.
Okay. LinkedIn, Instagram.
Yes.
Give us that.
LinkedIn is Robert parentheses Bob.
I got that.
Yeah, that A Herndon.
Okay. And your Instagram.
Instagram is I don't use it that often, but it's
All right.
yeah, I don't have it memorized
That's
off the
all
top of
right.
my head. Yeah.
That's all right. Because I must tell the audience that I actually have in the description the link for your website, your Facebook, and your LinkedIn, so that they can click on it and reach you. Because I am sure that you have a lot more to say to them, and
Absolutely.
you certainly, Bob, I really appreciate what you have been doing, and
Thank you.
many persons, perhaps did not know that addiction comes in this form as well.
Absolutely.
And it's a serious thing, and it needs to be dealt with. So men can contact you. Women also have this sort of addiction. What the statistics? Women in relation to men.
The women are actually gaining ground on the men. I don't know if it's the pandemic, and they don't get a chance to be
Yeah.
out socially.
Right.
Don't know, but I would not discount the situation for women. And
Yeah.
it has the same far-reaching effect on the spouse as a male with a female
yeah.
spouse.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Bob, nice talking to you. I wish you all the best, and I believe you're a strong person, right? Many times things happen in our lives, and we don't come out and talk about it, but we need to do that so it can help others. Sometimes our adversities, our experiences are not for us, but for others. I think, and
Yes.
we should reach out and talk about it so that others can be helped while we are helped, we are healed. Right? Thanks,
Yes.
Bob. It's nice talking to you. And
You
can
as
use
well.
inspiration.
Thank
Your
you so
topic.
much.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
That was Bob. It's a lot that he had said, and I really appreciate him. And the fact that he came out and talked to men about this sort of addiction, because and many people, women, it affects women as well. And just to hear his wife's response to it, women can be encouraged through that, having a spouse who are affected by such addiction. Women, talk to the spouse. Don't get upset with him. Just talk to him and try to get a sort of an idea of what had gone on, and see how best you can work together to help the situation. Many disorders, many addictions, as Baba had said, it's something outside, some underlying issues, challenges that causes the situation to happen. So therefore, work with the problem, beat up the problem and not the person. See how best you can work together to get through it. Contact Bob. Contact Bob. It's important that you do that. You have his Facebook account. He mentioned that. His website, www.integritylifecoaching.org. Talk to him and see how best you can learn from what he has to offer. And remember we're in a pandemic. Don't forget that. Continue to keep your social distance. Continue to wear a mask. The hygiene thing I call it, because it's not only about washing your hands, but there are other hygienic issue that we need to look at, right? And the vaccine, I know the challenges with it. There's that two-sided thing about it. But I took my Pfizer 2 doses. I'm not forcing you, but I'm encouraging you. Go take your vaccine, no? Go on, take your vaccine, right? And let us go back to normal. I'm not sure when this will finish, but just help us finish it early. Okay? Thank you for watching Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I am Dr. Canute White.